In this video series, we'll dive into essential Linux command and concepts, focusing on how these can streamline your work in biology and bioinformatics. Welcome to this introductory video on Linux Essentials. Today, we'll start by understanding the roots of Linux, which traces back to the Unix operating system. Unix was developed in the late 60s and early 70s at AT&T's Bell Labs as a powerful, flexible, and multi-user system. It was designed to be portable, meaning it could be adapted to run on different machines. And it introduces several core concepts that are still essential today, such as file hierarchies, permissions, and processes. Its modular design and powerful command line interface allowed users to perform complex tasks efficiently by chaining simple commands together. Over the years, Unix inspired many similar operating systems, and in the late 90s, Linux emerged as a Unix-like operating system that was open source and free to modify. Because of its flexibility, reliability, and open source nature, Linux has become a favorite scientific computing tool used in bioinformatics and other data-intensive fields. So let's start by getting comfortable with the Unix-based environment that Linux provides. But before we get into specific details, you need to understand that in Linux system, like most other operating systems, three essential components work together to create the user experience: the kernel, the shell, and the graphical user interface, or GUI. The kernel is the core of the operating system. It manages the system's resources, like the CPU, memory, and devices. It acts as an intermediary between software and hardware, handling tasks like memory allocation, process management, and device communication. The shell is the command line interface where users can interact with the system by entering text-based commands. It allows users to perform tasks, manage files, and run programs. For biologists and data analysts, the shell is the place that most of the work is done, as almost all those processes run in this interface, or at least have the option to. Lastly, the graphical user interface is the visual layer that most users are familiar with. It provides windows, icons, and menus, allowing users to navigate the system visually. While the GUI makes Linux accessible for beginners, command line operations through the shell are often preferred in bioinformatics for their speed and flexibility. On the other hand, Linux uses file system with a hierarchical structure. At the top is the root directory. All files and directories stem from this root, forming a single unified structure. This directory is represented as a forward slash in the Linux system. To access and function in this directory, you typically need to be the admin and have the so-called root access. This permission is essential for times when you want to, for example, install or run a script that functioned in one of the main root subdirectories. There are several subdirectories in root, but common root subdirectories include home, where each user has a personal directory for files and configurations, the bin directory containing essential binary programs like basic commands. You can find the MMT directory as well. This directory is traditionally reserved for temporary mounting file systems, such as external drives or network shares. However, if you have installed Linux through Windows Subsystem for Linux or WSL, you will find that your Windows hard drives are also located in the MMT directory. So, if you were ever using WSL and wanted to access a file that exists in your Windows operating system, you need to define the file path through the MMT directory. So, with that being said, let's now talk about some of the basic and essential commands you need to get you started on using the Linux terminal. Okay, let's talk about navigation. The first thing you need to specify is where you are located in the Linux file system. This can be achieved by pwd or print working directory command. If you have just opened your Linux terminal, this command should return something like this. As you can see, it says that from the top, I am located in the root directory, and then the home subdirectory, and finally in Genomedicon, which is my username. This should typically be the case as this is the home directory of my account. Doesn't matter if you're working on a remote server or on your local system. Your home directory is your spawn point. The shortcut of your home directory is the tilde, which looks something like this. This comes in handy when navigating through the file system later. Now, if you want to move from a directory to another, you can use the cd command, which is short for change directory. In Linux, the shortcut for parent directory is a double dot. So if you want to specify that you want to move up one level to the parent directory in the Linux file system, you need to write a double dot after cd command. And that makes it cd space double dot. Hit enter. Now do a pwd to know where you are located now. You can see that we have moved one level up in the file system. Repeat the process once more. Just as a side note, to access the previous command that you have entered, you can just use the up and down arrow keys. So do a cd double dot once more, and then a pwd. You can see that now we are in the / or the root directory. If you are curious to know what are the files and directories in your root, you can find this out by using the ls command. This command lists all the contents of a specified directory. When in the root directory, type ls and hit enter, or the return key if you are working with a Mac computer. As you can see, all the directories we talked about earlier are present here. The ls command, like many others in Linux, can accept different options to do specific functions. For example, the ls-l command lists files and directories with additional details like permissions, owners, and file size. As you can see, the file size is in bytes. But if you do ls-lh, then you will have your files and directories with human-readable sizes, such as kilobytes and megabytes. Okay, let's get back to our home directory, and by now, you know that we can do this by typing cd space tilde. In Linux terminal, most of the time, you will be working with text files. So knowing the right way to view and edit these files is crucial. To create, edit, and view a text file, you can use the nano tool. So if you type nano and hit enter, you will get to an environment which kind of looks like the notepad with similar utilities and functions. Here, you can type anything you want. After writing your text, now you want to exit the nano. To do this, just hit Ctrl X or Command X if you're on a Mac computer. Now it asks if you want to save this file. Hit Y for yes, and now specify what you want to name your file and hit enter. If I do the ls command, I can see a new file named test. If I want to view and edit this file again, I just type nano space and the name of the file, which in this case is test. You can hit Ctrl X to exit nano again. In addition to nano, there are other tools that you can use in Linux to view text files as well. For example, the cat command, which is short for concatenate, displays the content of a file in the terminal environment. It's best for smaller files, as it outputs the entire content at once. The less and more commands allow you to view a file one page at a time, which is helpful for larger files. If I type less space test, I can view my file. Press Q to exit. Furthermore, head and tail commands display the beginning and end of a file respectively. By default, they show 10 lines only. So if I do head space test, it will show me the first 10 lines of my file. And if I type tail space test, it will output the last 10 lines of my file. You can also adjust the number of lines you want these tools to show by using the -n option. For example, if I execute this command, it will give me the first 5 lines of the test file. To make a new directory, you can use the mkdir or make directory command. For example, if I type mkdir space tutorial and hit enter, this will produce no output. But when I do ls, as you can see, I have a new directory named tutorial. I can move to this directory by doing cd space tutorial. As a side note, in Linux terminal, you can use the tab key to fill the name of your file so that you won't need to write the whole thing. If I do ls, you can see that this directory is empty. So let's change that. Move to the parent directory by doing cd /, and let's copy the text file that you already made to the newly made directory. To do this, use the cp or the copy command. For this command to work, you need to specify 2 things. First is the object that you want to copy, and next, the path where you want to copy the file to. So in my case, it should look something like this. If I hit enter and do ls space tutorial, I can see that I have a file named test in my tutorial directory. Another useful command you can also use is the mv command, which is short for move. Obviously, this tool can move or cut the file from one directory and move it to another. But also you can use this tool to rename your files as well. So, for example, if I type this command and hit enter and get ls, you can see that my file name has changed. Mind that for the new name, I used a hyphen instead of space. The reason for that is that Linux recognizes space as separators in writing syntax. So if I type a space instead of a hyphen, it's like I'm giving my command another option or argument, which is not what I'm supposed to do. Okay, if I want to remove a file, I can use the rm or remove command. So if I type rm and give it the path of a file I copied earlier and hit enter, it will remove that specific file. But if I want to delete a directory, I need to give this tool a -r option to specify that the following string is a directory. Therefore, by typing rm-r tutorial, it will remove the directory that we made earlier. One of the most useful tools that you can find in Linux is called grep. This tool looks for patterns within a file and can find the search term that you are looking for, and it brings you the line where it found the search term in. For example, if I do grep Linux in the text file that we made earlier, it will give me the line where it found the term in. Just keep in mind that by default, grep is case sensitive and it will perform its search based on the exact spelling of the search term. You can deactivate the case sensitive nature of grep by using -i option. The last command which I'm going to show you in this video is the wget command. This is what you can use to download files in your Linux terminal. In order to do that, you just have to type wget and paste the link to the file that you are going to download. For pasting text in Linux terminal, copy the text and then hit the right mouse key. Just keep in mind that when you're using wget command to download large files, you should give it a -c option so that the download resumes from where the previous download had failed, if that ever was the case. As a final note, for all the commands mentioned in this video, you can find their manuals going over each option and the types of acceptable arguments by using man for manual before the name of the tool, or by using -h or /help option for each tool. For example, man ls gives me the detailed information about the ls command. This was just a brief introduction on the essential tools you need to get you comfortable with the Linux terminal environment. In our next videos, we will get deeper into how and what computational tools in genetics and biology can be used in the Linux terminal, and how we can use the benefits of this operating system to streamline our processes. We hope that you enjoyed this video. You can support us by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. If you have any questions and suggestions, make sure to drop them in the comments. And like always, keep exploring the wonders of science and take care.